Live TV.
You'll get practice.
Welcome, everyone. This is Kristen Vincent, Chair of the Westborough School Committee. Today is Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. This meeting of the Westborough School Committee is called to order. Please stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Due to the impacts of the COVID-19 virus, some aspects of the open meeting law have been suspended. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 5, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, limited attendance of members of the public will be permitted at an in-person school committee meeting. School committee meetings are available for remote viewing or listening on Westborough TV's government channels, Verizon 28 and Charter 192, and online on the Westborough TV YouTube channel. Anyone attending an in-person meeting will need to wear a mask covering their nose and mouth and maintain 6 feet of distance from others at all times within the meeting room. If you are uncomfortable attending the school committee meeting in person but wish to have your thoughts shared during citizens' request, please send an email to school-committee@westboroughk12.org anytime before 3 p.m. on the day of a meeting and indicate that you would like your message read aloud for the public record. Any votes we take this evening will be roll call votes due to the wearing of masks. I'd like to notify everyone in the room with us tonight that this meeting is being recorded by Westborough TV, and I'd like to thank Westborough TV for covering the broadcast tonight. We have with us tonight Superintendent Amber Bach, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Daniel Mayer, Director of Finance and Administration Irene Oliver, Vice Chair of the Westborough School Committee Steve Durrett, School Committee members Sarah Dulay, Lisa Edinburgh, and Raghu Nandan. Our student representative Kyla Kamugu cannot be here tonight. We have our recording secretary Jen Benton and staff from Westborough TV handling the broadcast and recording of this meeting. So our agenda for this meeting is as follows. We'll have an approval of minutes from April 28th, 2021 regular session. Then we'll do a recognition of Eagle Scouts who will be here with their families. We'll have the superintendent's report, reports from the assistant superintendent and director of finance and administration, school committee member reports, building project updates, and then at 6:30 we will be holding a public hearing on school choice. We'll have citizens' requests, then COVID-19 impact updates, which include just some general updates. And then Roger Anderson, Director of Wellness, will be here to share with us a presentation on how a monetary gift from the Turkey Trot fundraiser will be used in the district. We'll have a world language update. We'll review a draft of the dates for school committee meetings for the 2021-2022 school year. We'll have a discussion of the superintendent's review process, and we do have a need for an executive session tonight. So we'll begin with an approval of minutes. We're going to approve the minutes from April 28th, 2021 regular session. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 28th.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Sarah?
Dulay, yes.
Raghu?
Nandan, yes.
Lisa?
Edinburgh, yes.
Steve?
You're right, yes.
And Vincent, yes, 5-0. Those are approved. So we're going to move into our recognition of at least one of our Eagle Scouts who's here tonight, and if others drift in, we can always pause the meeting and continue recognizing them. But I'd like to welcome Michael here with his family. And I think Superintendent Bach has a description of the service project that you did.
I do.
So we'd love to invite you forward to the front table here. Come on up.
So it's a pleasure to welcome Michael O'Keefe, a senior, with us this year. And it is a true celebration of returning to in-person when we have an opportunity to once again recognize Eagle Scouts live and do some of these special celebrations. We certainly know that the impact of Eagle work and across the district of our community is so impactful to a whole variety of contributions, and we're going to hear some of what Michael did. I also want to acknowledge that it remains immensely rare to receive your Eagle, and we know within our Girl Scouting crew as well that the Silver and Gold Awards also remain very high honors. So Michael pursued it, he's achieved it, and we're here to offer him congratulations tonight. His project worked to make major improvements of some substantial trailways. He was working off of the Wiley Forest area of Westborough, and he removed some of the old bog bridges, the ones that cross the Libby Trail, and then I think over on the Farm Spring Trail as well, and removed and then added newly constructed bridges installed in the area that often experiences flooding. And having been down there, I know of the area. The completed project has greatly improved the trail safety, as this well-used trail now promotes healthy outdoor opportunities. I would, again, like to offer you our congratulations. And usually, sometimes the committee has questions or would like to make comments, and I'll turn it over to them.
So I have a question for you, Michael. So are these trails that you have walked before and noticed it as an issue?
Yeah, it's actually something that was really cool about the project is that those specific trails were ones that I had used both in Scouts and just in my personal life. So it was really cool to be able to fix an issue that I knew was an issue from my own experience within the town.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
That is awesome, Michael. I use Osprey Trail, and every time I walk there, there's always these bridges that Eagle Scouts have built, and I'm always thankful for that, and I would love to try this one next time. It's awesome, and thank you so much for that.
Michael, how many other scouts helped you do the project?
What?
How many other scouts helped you do the project?
I was helped by a lot of Scouts throughout the course of the project. I had one main workday in which about 12 Scouts showed up, but also in the planning and prepping and all that, I had probably closer to like 20 or 25, 30 Scouts that helped me throughout the entire course of the project.
Great, thank you.
And you also had to do the fundraising, and then did you construct the bridges with that group? Did you construct them on site or bring them in pieces? Like, I'm just intrigued by like what you ended up doing.
We carted in the lumber from the trailhead. It was the farthest bridge was about a half a mile into the trail. So it was a little bit of work. It wasn't too hard with the amount of Scouts that we had, but so we carted all the lumber onto the physical site, and then we built it, installed it, and yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, in one of the bridges in Nose Farm Trail, that's fallen off. So for the next group, please let them know.
He's putting in an order now.
Scouts know, yeah. There are always more Scouts looking for a project.
Thank you.
And Michael, did you have to work with other community members or other organizations in order to get the work done?
Yeah, I mostly worked with WCLT. They were my sponsor for the project, so that was my main point of contact throughout the entire project. And I also, I got wood from sawmills, and I bought the treatment and all that, so, but yeah.
So a couple pieces. I also want to recognize that to Mr. Nandan's kind of comments, there were two other Eagles who couldn't be with us tonight, and one of them also worked on a trail, and I want to acknowledge his contribution. Alexander Honan, who also did a project related to networking trails, actually trails I walk quite a bit, over by Mill Pond area, and he did a lot of the network of trails was not well marked. He worked with the Westborough Community Land Trust to design, fabricate, and install new trail signs for more than a dozen trail junctures. And literally, having walked the trail, it is one of the most beautifully well-marked trails, and it's very well-traveled, and actually our students use it regularly. So I want to recognize his contribution as well. And then also Daniel Hastings, who worked to actually do a project at his church to design and paint a large series of murals to decorate the hallway church classrooms outside of their church education area. So just a nice array of projects again. And I just want to thank you for your service to the community. It certainly serves the schools, but to the larger community as a whole. And we're just really proud of you. So you represent us well. You make us look good.
Definitely.
So typically what we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys come out. You got to come out. We're going to do a photo. And we have a certificate for you, Michael, just to acknowledge your role. Bring you up here. This is like our routine. We have this down now after all these years. Although we haven't done, I haven't sent the notes for mine. This other one for you and certificate of acknowledgement. And then why don't we'll put you in the middle here. The mask up or down from the photo. You want to do what you want with a mask? Smile. Yeah, we're smiling. You want to chin for a quick photo? Everyone. Congratulations. You get the fist bump, Michael, or elbow bumping? Yeah. And we also congratulate the parents. Do a lot of myself.
There's plenty to do before 6:30. Superintendent report. There's plenty to do.
Well, we participated as helpers.
Plenty to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe for raising such a fine young man to do such good community service work that it makes such an impact as people walk through the trails. Do they really think about how they were cleared and how they stay cleared? And, you know, Michael, thank you so much for your service. Really, it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. I mean, you think about the DPW and the amount of work across the community that our scouts contribute to trail clearing and maintenance. It's made, with the creation of the charm bracelet, which is just a substantial set of trails, having the scouts really pick up that piece of maintenance is just a huge service to the community. So.
It makes it useful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, most of those trails have streams running. It's not usable without those bridges.
Yeah, no, it's and also without the good markings. So a lot of great projects.
Yeah. Thank you.
Guys, take care.
Congratulations.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, the lift on the trail markings has really improved. I mean, having walked them for years, they've really, I think the Community Land Trust, just to give a shout out to, again, another level of service. Those are adults who serve, and I'm sure there's a couple Eagle Scouts embedded in there. You know, people that continue to recognize the need for community service.
And more land is being,
Yeah, it's very
saved
exciting.
in Westborough for more and more trails
Yeah,
that
it's
are coming. It really is an extraordinary area.
Yeah.
If people don't know, there's the charm bracelet that has hundreds of miles of trails that interweave through Westborough. And you just have to go online and look at all the maps and find your way. And they're pretty well marked. And because of Michael and, was it Daniel?
Michael and Daniel and also Alexander, yeah.
And
working
Alexander,
extensively, yeah.
really, yeah. And even the work in his church, which was one of the other members,
Yep, Daniel's project, just
you know,
really
to
good
really
stuff.
create a profound space that's, you know, beautiful and
Yeah.
worthy of place of worship. It's very nice.
Great. Well, it feels nice to have, you know, a more typical activity honoring our Eagle Scouts in person is much better than over Zoom. So next on our agenda is the superintendent's report. So Amber, I'll
Great, thank you. So my update actually is brief and focused on preparation for town meeting tonight. The other types of updates that are aspects of school celebration and happenings I'll do under the COVID update because they're all modified, so it's kind of naturally part of that update. In terms of district updates, Preparation for town meeting is moving forward. Town meeting is Saturday at 9 a.m. at the high school. And I just want to, acknowledge that I hope that our families will turn out to participate in the activity of voting the town budget and the 29 articles, I believe, that constitute the warrant for bringing together the town's finances for the upcoming year and expending funds on important projects. In terms of updates for you tonight, I have a draft of the 3 presentations close to complete. I have one I want to complete tonight after our meeting when I can put some more work into it. I should be able to send them to you tomorrow. I'll share you in. And if you want to take an opportunity and skim through those, then I can make any changes you suggest, and you can call me and talk them through. And then I have to convert those to PowerPoints, and I need some time to do that because you have to clean up a lot of stuff that jumps around. And then I need to share those over to Mark Stockman by the end of the day, Friday. So, the timeline certainly works, but you'll have plenty of time to look at them. They'll be brief. I think the 3 that we have is I'm prepping the town budget, our school budget overview, should we get a question called, and that comes up in the article of the overall town budget. And then we have 2 short presentations for the 2 capital articles, the Hastings sprinkler system and the partitions at the high school gymnasium. So those are both, I think the one for the partition is like 3 slides. It's just a picture of what that is, the language of the warrant, and then a couple aspects of bulleted details. I'll send that to you, and my understanding as we left it would be that Raghu, you would present that if a question gets called, and so when you look at those slides, you can text me, give me a call, and just say they look clean, you feel ready to go with it, or you'd like me to add or change something for you, and then we can interact, and then I can complete it, and then it would be yours to present. And then the other article for the Hastings sprinkler, that should a question get called on that, that Steve would present that, and I imagine I'm going to keep that fairly tight as well. We don't want to bog them down with too much information, but I think it's, enough to give them an overview of, I know you retain the mental history of the trajectory of the articles, should that be part of the question. So you and I might need to talk a little bit about how detailed you want those slides. I think mostly it's to be clear that this would complete the sprinkling of the 6 buildings, and for both equity, excellence, and safety, it's important that we complete that. So I will have those 2 tomorrow. In terms of the budget presentation, I worked off of the final presentation that we did to FinCom. That was pretty much an overview budget remembrance, and I stuck with that one and kind of tweaked it a little bit. It basically allows them to remember the impact of FY21 and the financial changes we made there, and then just states the core pieces of the budget, and then we would work off of questions. I think we've found in the past that that's the best purpose of town meeting. I don't have a lot of data in there kind of defending who the schools are. I think that's not, 1, we're going to be in a more streamlined meeting, and 2, I think John Arnold, the moderator, has come to a place where he has tightened down those presentations. He expects them to be succinct and to the point. So that presentation focuses on the numbers and making sense of them to people, and then we'll work off of questions. Should you feel differently about that and you want any types of highlights, then let me know. The other note that I made is that, dependent on how quickly I can move, and Irene with me, would be if I present a flyer. I think, this year, I don't know that we need one, but I think, 1, because we had that other article that came off and we thought that was going to be where we might need the most detail. But again, I might feel ambitious tomorrow and be able to work on completing that. If I do, I'll push it to you, and you guys can give it a look. If you feel strongly that we have to have one entering into town meeting, certainly you can give me feedback on that and what you want me to focus it on, and I'll give it my best shot to have something ready to go. So that is my update for tonight. Any questions or thoughts on that you want to contribute now would be fine.
I would just like to say that as a committee, we'll meet at 8:30 before the meeting. So at 8:30 at the Westborough High School Library Conference Room. So that's been reserved for us, and so we'll be able to convene as a committee. We can open our own meeting and have a meeting at town meeting in case we have to take any votes on the town meeting floor. So that's 8:30 in the morning, so bring your coffee. Sarah might have snacks. And yeah, we'll meet there so we can just kind of touch base before we go into town meeting. Yeah.
All right.
I just want to thank you, because, I mean, this time of year, which is normally something different, you
Yeah.
know, the fact that you've been through quite an intense year overall, and to come to this point where we're presenting the budget in a sense that is supposed to be normalcy, is still not. And
Yeah.
so, thank you for your time and
Thank you.
Put
Thank
it
you.
in,
Yeah, it
work
feels weird to be prepping for town meeting. We're usually voted and done by now and focused just on closure. So all the rhythm of things are still pretty fragmented, you know, even just our own return to meetings. So I was like, oh, I need a folder. So, you know, we're all still in those adjustments, but thank you.
yeah, thank you.
And Daniel, I think I will turn it over to you.
Good evening. So a couple of updates. I guess the first one I want to give you is an update on our the school calendar. You voted the calendar. There was TBD, it said, for the half days for next year. So I put those into the calendar. And you don't traditionally vote on when those occur. But they're in the calendar now so that you can. Let me put them up on the board. You can see where those are going to be, and then also having some trouble dragging this
Well,
up.
I think she put them in the
And-
folder, but she didn't, yeah, you need to bring
No,
it up.
it's-
Oh,
it's-
okay,
it is
there
in the
you- There
folder.
you go. Okay, got it.
But, so in the sort of the pink purplish color are the half days that we'll have for professional development. And it's traditional that we have 2 days in a row for the conferences for the elementary in October. So one of those, the 29th, is only K-6. So there's 2 days that are for the K-6 for conferencing, and 2 days for K-12 total that are happening in October. We do front load our PD. You can see there's more between the PD day and the half days. More of it happens in the beginning of the year to get some of the professional learning that needs on initiatives that are new and such to work with the faculty. So then we have a day in December, a day in January, one in February. So you can see it's not as, it's sort of crunched up there in the fall a little bit, and then nothing between February in the months of March and April, and then one in May where we're doing class placement. And then there's Professional Development Day on the 4th. That was marked on the calendar before. What wasn't is the PD Day in March on the 1st. So that wasn't there before, but that's traditionally when we have it is the first Tuesday in March. And then what's also different on this version of the calendar is you voted at the last meeting that Indigenous Peoples Day would be added to the calendar along with Columbus Day. So you can see that appears on the calendar here. So, and as you know, you voted on it, but we have Juneteenth is also new on the calendar and is going to be observed on the 20th, assuming we have snow if we go into that week. So
It'll be really interesting to see whether or not the state allows virtual snow days moving forward. It's going to be very interesting.
that'll be very interesting, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I
Any questions about it?
was gonna say, I think the pink color is great because it stands out, and I like keeping them on Fridays. To me, that feels like a good time to have a early release for families, so.
Yes.
So typically, it's good to have a time. Some years you've voted them, like the number of them are in contract, so you don't necessarily have to vote to approve them. You're not doing that. But typically, you'll review this let it sit for a week, and then if you want to confirm with a final vote, it certainly codifies the decision around putting the days where we did. And so, but in terms of the actual contracted number of days, that's all part of delineation already voted in contract. But it's nice to see Juneteenth in there. I'm pleased to see the Indigenous Peoples Day noted as well. I think it's looking like a good calendar coming into the fall.
So is there a reason that it actually says Columbus Day, even though we voted in just to have Indigenous Peoples' Day?
I believe the vote didn't take out Columbus Day.
Yeah, I think we decided just to keep both on the calendar this year to just show that it's also Columbus Day, not to confuse anyone moving into the district, and to also, if we use this as an employment calendar, the state holiday is Columbus Day.
No, I understand. I don't think that's what we made a motion for, though. I thought the motion was to alter the name, Columbus Day, to Indigenous Peoples' Day in the Westborough Public Schools, which would include the calendar. Would it not?
I thought we were adding Indigenous peoples with this day.
You can go back and look at the minutes if you want to, I guess.
Well, I think you should finish the discussion and clarify your motion. I mean, that's fine. I mean, my understanding was that we were maintaining the national holiday and then indicating that in Westborough it was significant for us to recognize Indigenous people on the same day. So, but I'll defer to you guys to continue the discussion.
Yeah, I had a very different understanding. I thought we had a full discussion about it, that to call it Columbus Day seemed incongruent or compared to what we were talking about was important during that extensive discussion we had. Does Steve or Raghu, did you hear it differently?
I thought it was going to be replaced with Indigenous Peoples' Day. I'm with you on that.
Lisa, you
my
made the
take is, since it's there.
Yeah, I thought I
it's there.
said that we
Yeah.
were replacing.
Well, why don't we check the minutes?
Yeah,
and-
check
and
the
see.
minutes.
Yeah.
I thought we couldn't really replace Columbus. I know we can replace it in name only, but I thought we couldn't replace it since it's still a federal and state holiday.
You know, to be honest, though, I think until the state changes, it almost, it seems inconsistent not to do what the state clearly says, although didn't they vote to change it, but they haven't done it yet?
They haven't acted on it
I mean,
yet.
there's a bill to do it, but they haven't done it yet.
They haven't acted, yeah.
Anyway, let's check the minutes and see where it
Okay.
takes us.
Well, Jen just sent me the minutes. And these are the words that Jen has in the minutes for the motion. Ms. Edinburgh made a motion to change our calendar name on that national recognized holiday from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples' Day in Westborough Public Schools. Mr. Durrett seconded the motion, and we voted 5-0 in favor.
We did change.
Yeah.
We did vote to change.
Well, that takes care of that, I think. I think there's a correction to make then.
Okay.
Okay.
And so the other question was, people often ask why we have professional development days at and the reason it comes up every year is because there are a lot of 4-day weeks. People will notice we have a lot of 4-day weeks at the beginning of the year. They ask, can't professional development days be at the end of the year? And the answer is no. We answer it, we say this every year. Because the answer is no, because the whole purpose of professional development days is for it to be development during the year in which you're teaching, and it's beneficial to have it. And I'm sure, Daniel, you can answer that better than I, but
That's so funny.
no, people ask every year, why can't you have it the last week of school?
I mean, you know, it's basically, it's a way of, the people who parents understand, I guess, they work at companies, that companies have initiatives that they need to launch. And for us, we're working on an academic calendar. And so at the beginning of the year, after planning over the summer and such, and when you're getting up and running with new goals and initiatives or programs, you wouldn't want to do those at the end of the year. You'd want to start them in the beginning of the year so they have the maximal impact on the students. So yeah, but I understand. I mean, it is, you know, it's always a little choppy in the beginning of the year. There are some school districts, and we've talked about this, that are very comparable to us, our competitors that have early release days weekly through the school year, and we've always talked about that as not being something that we're willing to engage in, and so we're not out of sync with other school districts. If anything, we have less than than a lot of our sort of comparable districts in terms of early release.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think it's a worthy question, and we certainly understand it. There's no good time not to be in school. But I think you're coming off of a clear summer where we've completed a lot of curriculum work. We'll be bringing forward, for example, a completed draft of the strategic plan, which you'll then vote. We'll be circulating it to staff, getting final comments, bringing it back to you, all of the summer work that they're doing. And however we have to modify what we're doing to open, all of that work has to be completed, communicated, and then really implemented in the early days. And the other one is for conferencing, which is also, again, a time we dedicate to that on the 29th, where it's just the K to 6. So we certainly recognize the impact that when we aren't in school, that can be complicated for families. We do feel that we've honored their preference that they be on the Friday and that they be set and consistent. I feel like overall the calendar has been one that's won a better sense of praise from families for the continuity of how you're implementing it. But as I said, I mean, when I worked in Wellesley, we had every Wednesday as half days because when you're driving a lot of high-level professional initiatives, you need time to work with people. And at the end of the day, teachers are trying to prep. So anyway, I think it's worth the time given, but I do appreciate the need to reiterate, and I appreciate you calling that forward, Lisa.
Wait, sorry, can I go back to Indigenous people in Columbus Day for 1 second? I think like in the context of our conversation, there was some conversation about keeping Columbus Day and then adding Indigenous People Day with the same wording as Shrewsbury did. So I think I was more of the understanding that that's what we were doing.
Well, certainly we could take it up again, but I think the motion was clear from the minutes that that's what we voted 5-0. And so I think we have an obligation, having voted it unanimously, that in fact it is Indigenous Peoples Day and doesn't include Columbus anymore.
So can I make another motion to do both?
Pardon?
Can I make a motion to include both on the calendar?
To reconsider?
To
Sure.
reconsider. So I guess I'd make a motion to reconsider and just add Indigenous Peoples Day with Columbus Day, since it's still the federal state holiday on the calendar.
Is there a second?
Okay.
So the
Okay.
motion will stand from our meeting
Okay.
last week, or 2 weeks ago, and we will just change it to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah. Sorry, you might want to explain why you want to do that, because there may be a viable, I mean, we changed it, we could change it back, we could have a discussion. I mean, I was quite outspoken on the issues associated with this particular discussion in terms of education. And we heard in the interim that Algonquin changed, their position associated with, with their mascot. I guess that's what it is, right? They didn't change the name of the school, but they changed the mascot. But at any rate, my point was simply that things in and of themselves have a specific meaning to everybody in the community as to whether or not there's true history to it. Part of the discussion that we had at the time was that, in my own opinion, Columbus Day was created politically for political reasons in the 20s based on events that happened in Massachusetts as a way to deal with the issues of ethnicity. And in fact, this discussion is the same discussion, and in fact, it's a follow-up to the same thing. To me, it's not so much important that whatever we call it, but that the people in the Commonwealth and hopefully in the rest of the country actually do understand the history of how we got here, what we are as a community now, as we were in the colonial times, and all the things that happened since then. They all are part of our history in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, including the fact, as I found out yesterday, that Mather, I forgot what his last name was, the congregational preacher in the 1690s who presided over the witch trials,
It was Cotton Mather.
Cotton Mather, had a number of slaves. So there's a lot of stuff that happened historically that you just can't say it's this or it's that. We as a people, not only here in the United States, but everywhere else in the world, have some history that nobody likes. And we have other history that we celebrate. But what's important for our kids going forward is an understanding of all that so that they can think about what they're going to do as individuals as they live their lives. And, there's many things that aren't fair in life. There's some discussion going on right now about the politics of the country in terms of what events happened on January 6th and why and what it all means, including a vote this morning in Congress relative to a person who stood up for the position of the democracy of the United States. So to me, again, this discussion brings up the idea that education of our students is probably more important than the debate over whether it's Indigenous Peoples' Day or it's Columbus Day. And I'll stand on that no matter what our vote is, no matter what we call this going forward.
No, right, I definitely agree with that. I just had heard from some members of the community when the article in the Community Advocate came out and said, did you actually change it, or, we're both going to be on the calendar? And I guess it was my understanding that both was going to be on the calendar. So I know we have some people in our community that would prefer it that way, so.
Yep.
Daniel, I'm going to interrupt your reports because at 6:30, we're
Yes.
supposed to enter into a public hearing on school choice. So we're going to do that, and then we'll come back to the rest of your reports after that.
Sounds good.
So this is an annual public hearing on school choice. You, as a committee, will be voting on whether to accept school choice students for the 2021-2022 school year. Just a little background. In Massachusetts, the inter-district school choice program allows a parent to enroll a child in a school district that is not the child's home district. Because of space limitations, not all school districts accept out-of-district students under this program. Every year, school committees in each district decide whether they will participate in school choice and accept new enrollments from outside of the district, and if so, in what grades. A vote from the school committee is required to opt out of the school choice program. So first, we need a motion to enter a public hearing.
I
So
can make
move.
Second?
I'll second the public
Okay.
hearing. Steve can move
Yep.
it. And then
And we'll do a roll call vote.
vote Dulé, yes.
Nandan, yes?
Edinburgh, yes?
Durant, yes.
And Vincent, yes, 5-0. So we are in a public hearing about school choice. And first, I would recognize any member of the public that wishes to speak on school choice. But I don't see anyone here in the room, and I did not receive any comments via email. So then I'll take any comments from the committee who would like to speak about school choice.
I guess as you mentioned in the introduction to this, one of the reasons historically that we have not accepted school choice in Westborough is because we have no room for students. And we're spending over $50 million to build the Fail School in order to provide both an updating of that school as well as some additional classrooms. And so to me, it would be illogical to have school choice when we don't have room for those students.
And I think, Daniel, I think you had shared that this incoming kindergarten class is one of the largest.
It's larger than last year's. I wouldn't say it's one of the largest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I would say it's average right now.
Okay. Any other discussion about school choice?
I mean, the other part is without fails being fully built and open, the new one, that to reassess whether there's space seems as if we don't have space yet. It might be an open discussion in the future if the new Fails creates space. But even when we were discussing Fails prior to this past year, it didn't sound like we were going to have this excessive space. It was that we were creating space for where we didn't have space, where we've been crunched for several years, whether it be at the current Fails, and that would just open it up. So I'm not sure that will happen. And then we also don't really have a good sense of how many people left the district during COVID, who will return to the district without COVID, or as one might call the interim of whatever the new normal is.
Right.
So,
And you can't, I think a note around enrollment as you think about this, it's important to indicate that when you accept one as school choice, you're keeping them through the trajectory of their school career. So you really, some districts attempt to say, well, we have room in K or this. It doesn't work that way. You really are accepting a family that then schools their child with you through their whole trajectory. And you've certainly, in my 7 years, continued to look at the fact that we're comfortable and we're tight. We're not in any place where we would want to increase enrollment in this community. And I think the messaging from our town and from town meeting has consistently been that they're trying to stem the tide of growth of those that could go to school here. So I certainly think that it would not be a welcome sense that we would ever participate in increasing our enrollment in any way. So, just a reminder.
Yeah, in addition, when you see the class sizes at 25, 28, there's really no room for additional students to have an intake of additional students to that class.
So if we're not going to participate in school choice, we need to have a vote. So is there a motion for this?
Yeah, I move that we don't authorize school choice.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Goulet, yes.
Nandan, yes.
Edinburgh, yes.
Durrett, yes.
Vincent, yes, 5-0. So we will submit this decision to the state. And now we need a motion to end the public hearing.
So move.
I'll second Steve's motion.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sarah, roll call.
Goulet, yes. Sorry.
Nandan, yes.
Edinburgh, yes.
Durrett, yes.
Vincent, yes. All right, we are out of our public hearing and back to our regular session of the school committee meeting. And Daniel, I'll turn it back over to you because I think you had a few other updates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relatively quick. I know I've updated you in the last couple of meetings about MCAS and, how we're going to handle the remote students, and each of the schools have now, come up with their plans. I will tell you that our principals are exhausted from this year, and this has really added a tremendous burden to them. Just as it's sort of gotten, I don't want to say it's easy for classroom teachers at all, but it's basically gotten easier in some sense. It's gotten harder for our principals right now. So hug a principal next time you see one, I know, or elbow bump. They're just, a shout out to them and the assistant principals and all of them who are trying to learn how to do remote MCAS testing. So I just wanted to let you know that kind of, burden is on them. I also, one other audit that we went through this year in the midst of, you've heard about the special needs ELL, we were audited on how we spend and use our Title I, Title IIA, Title IVA grant money. And I'm just, pleased to say that we got our results back. I didn't even have time to tell you, Amber. They just said, we're doing great. They thank you for submitting everything we submitted, and your district has no follow-up that needs to be carried out in regards to that. So that's just a good place to be.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have anything?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll continue with our school committee member reports. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
Just another plug for town meeting. I know Amber mentioned our portion of it, but just want to remind everyone how important it is to attend. And it's Saturday, again, at 9 a.m. at the high school. And just thank everyone's countless hours in preparation. I know the Board of Selectmen and the town manager and the finance department and the finance committee all meet for months about the articles, and there's hours of Westborough TV you could watch in preparation. If you have questions, get some questions answered before you get there to expedite the process. And of course, always thank you to our moderator, John Arnold, for setting us up so well for success. And all the COVID protocols are already in place too. So it should be a safe, productive town meeting. So I encourage everyone to go.
Yeah. Margo?
Yes, this past Saturday, SAT exam went well without any student being turned away, thanks to Dr. Ryan and his team. I was keeping my fingers crossed because I had parents come to me, and one of the parents said last year her kid had 6 attempts to take SAT exam and could not get in.
Wow.
And finally, she applied for college without SAT, and she was not very happy about that. And I was, the first time SAT happened, her second kid got rejected. So she wasn't really, so she had registered for this past Saturday's SAT, and she got in. I called her and she said, yeah, she's in, so that's good.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's a good shout out. Dr. Ryan runs a tight ship over there with the SAT. So thank you.
Thanks. Lisa?
I just wanted to thank a few community members. There have been a lot of senior activities in the planning right now, and it's been pretty exciting. So I just wanted to mention a thank you to Jen McGrath. She is one of our librarians at Westborough Public Library, and she's been heading up a program called Adopt a Senior. And I guess all the seniors that wanted to be adopted have been adopted, and it's a little program. It's a great program to just celebrate those our students who are graduating this year, and they'll receive a little gift, just someone that they do not typically know who was thinking of them. But Jen did this last year and is doing it again this year. Also, Roberta Brown, she is planning and organizing the senior parade, which is happening on June 5th in the morning. And it's actually going in the opposite direction this year, where they're starting at Hastings and heading towards the high school so that they can do the goodbye to staff along, I don't know what road that is, along by the tennis courts.
Yeah, through the high
But
school.
they'll drive through and be able to say goodbye to their teachers, and it's a wonderful thing. And there'll be classic cars this year and a marching band, and there'll be just a little more celebration. It sounds like it's starting to become a tradition, and it's pretty wonderful for the community to come out. And then also Rebecca Priderino, it is Rebecca, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Not
is.
saying her daughter's name. She is one of our teachers at Mill Pond, and she has been organizing also some senior events with the administration so that our seniors can feel celebrated during a pretty challenging year for a nice send-off to them. So thank you to these 3 community members who are really doing a great job. And, of course, Brian Callahan, who's been one of our principals, who's really been going above and beyond, and to get our seniors to feel like there's a good send-off, whether it's be a dinner, the graduation is definitely happening and has been organized, and the baccalaureate, and yeah, there's been a lot of great things to have a good send-off for our 12th graders. So thank you very much. That's all.
Steve, anything now, or do you want to just building updates?
I'll do the updates.
All right. I just want to share that Project 351 ambassadors and alumni, along with student council, they're still running the Cradles to Crayons Spring Service Drive in all of the schools until Friday. Cradles to Crayons is a nonprofit organization that gives clothes to children in low-income or homeless situations. They also collect baby items, shoes, books, and toys. And they're still taking donations of used clothes in good condition from infant sizes to adult medium. And my daughter is a Project 351 alumni, and she was responsible for helping to organize at Fails. And she and I went there after school today to pick up the donations. And it was certainly overwhelming, the amount of donations that were received just from the Fales community alone. So the back of my entire car was filled with bags of clothes and books and shoes. And so the kids will get together after the drive and they spend a whole day sorting everything. The sort is a really important part of Cradles to Crayons because they really identify the high quality clothing that they want to pass on, the toys and books and things like that. And they have a system, they label it by size and gender and things like that. So thank you to all the students who are helping to coordinate that. That's really going to help a lot of students in our community and in Massachusetts.
I would like to add that it's a wonderful organization, and you can go there in Brighton to there and volunteer to sort it out. I've done it. It's so fun to do that anybody can go there and sign up to volunteer to do those sorting. It's really fun doing that on a Saturday morning.
Yeah. And it's amazing during COVID because they haven't been able to, like the kids typically would then go to the site and help sort there all day. Last year and this year, they just weren't able to do it, but they're able to hold community sorts, within schools. So they're going to be at Gibbons sorting. So it's kind of a great way to keep the donations going because those are so important even during COVID. So yeah, thank you. Steve, what do you have for building project updates?
I'll be brief tonight, but I do want to comment and pick up where Sarah and Amber mentioned town meeting. It's an important piece of town government and process for us all. Certainly the school budget is significant, but the other discussion in terms of the warrant articles that benefit the school, the sprinkler article, and the what was the second one? I forgot.
The partition.
Oh, the partitions, yes, that Ragu's going to present, are important things for the school system. It's part of our obligation to protect the students who are in the schools, as well as maintaining our town property, and in this case, it's school buildings. So it's important that people go to town meeting and do their civic duty, which is also, I think, rewarding just to understand how the whole process works. A brief update on Fales. Fales is continuing to move along. We're finally sorting through all the various components of questions by contractors. We're coming to the end of the need to explain how to build something so that, in fact, it does get built. As we talked about at the last meeting, the schedule of when we would occupy the new building is still under discussion, primarily in order to save as much money as possible and not pay forced overtime to meet a schedule that, let's say, is in the contract but really serves no benefit to the students. We'll discuss that tomorrow at the monthly meeting. The potential is to save over $100,000 by making consideration of what schedule to pick. And Gilbane, the construction manager, has developed a spreadsheet for our committee to review and to comment on, and hopefully the bottom line will be occupancy time of the new school, but also the ability to save that amount of money. And so with that, I guess that's the end of my report.
And just to add a nice piece to what Steve was just saying, after they finalize the decision on the best phase for opening plans, Marion and I will put out a communication from the building committee and myself to the Fales community, so they get a good update, but then also we'll do Westborough also, it's a good community update to recognize the timeline, the importance, and the trajectory of the work, I think would be good opportunity. So I started kind of drafting that. I'll run it by then Steve and the committee and Mary Ann so that we can put out a thoughtful, important, and I think celebratory, but certainly a set of timeline benchmarks for the Fales community in particular to feel like they have what they need to kind of have a picture where we're going. Mm-hmm. So they have time to get excited, but they also have time to recognize that those timelines might be different than they anticipated. So I think that's an important part of the process.
Any other questions about Steve's update? Great, thank you. So we're at citizens' requests in our agenda. If there are any citizens that would like to come forward and make a statement to the school committee. Seeing none, we'll move on to our COVID-19 impact updates. And these keep getting shorter and shorter, which I think is a good sign.
I know. They definitely are shifting in some of the pieces. I want to begin by, I think, an introduction that's important, which is to acknowledge the importance of everyone needing to continue to remember that this is a very difficult process, and to have patience that everything won't be as you expected it to be immediately upon your child's return to school. And I think that for some students and for some family members, and for faculty and for all of us, this desire to have normalcy completely return. And there's tensions between the amount of modified planning we can manage, the amount of timelines. We are weeks from closing school, and then even shorter weeks from seniors being done. Every logistical moment that it takes to implement what looks seamless by the time people see it continues to take immense planning behind the scenes. And I know people are fatigued, but I encourage everyone to remain positive and forward-looking and celebrate what we are able to achieve. I think when your child is facing closure around a grade level or around high school or around a transition, that's important, there's still a sense of loss that I want to acknowledge. This is a sense of loss that these are impacted changes. There are still a lot of things that we are not able to do. We're not having project graduation night. That's a loss for those seniors. We aren't having prom in the same level of way that students traditionally in Westborough spend years anticipating. And so I think we're all hurt by that, and it is a true loss. And for our students, I have to say that the students have remained highly resilient. And that the high school, one of the core focus goals is to engage students in participating in that planning so that their voice is heard. And I think there's always tensions in all of that. Making sure that our students are guiding the planning with good adult support and that we can do what we can achieve. So I think it's important to acknowledge those losses tonight. People that we didn't get to do the Gibbons trip, which we were so celebratory of as a huge addition after years of research that we really liked, that we had returned to a trip outing as a culmination of 8th grade, and now we haven't been able to do it for 2 years. So I just, as superintendent, want to acknowledge those losses and to acknowledge the fatigue and to encourage all of us to stay in our best frame of mind through the close of the year. And let's be celebratory in front of our children around what we can do and be patient with ourselves. I want to reiterate what Daniel's saying. The leadership team, the faculty, they're exhausted in the sense that the state dropping a complicated MCAS implementation on top of them. We're very competent and we will pull it off, and we are, but I'm in pain for districts that don't have resources, just got back to school. There are districts that have not been in school more than 2 weeks, and that there are districts that haven't even welcomed back high schoolers yet. And now the state is requesting that they perform an extensive amount of testing in a complicated setting. So I guess, my hope tonight, when there's so much celebration of feeling better in some ways, is that we recognize, I feel the importance as your superintendent, that we not lose sight of how hard this is. And I expect people to remain respectful and supportive of our faculty as we move through the close of the year, because it's always typical that tensions, escalate when people are tired. So I certainly mean that in the most positive way, but I do believe it's important for you as a school committee to know, because you hear from your constituencies their concerns about what we aren't doing. And I just think it's important that I want to celebrate what we are getting done. I will transition towards some highlights then, and I never want people to feel like I'm offering those up as celebrations that somehow don't recognize those diminishments. We are stable and focused across this district. We have pre-K to 12 in full-time. We are running a smooth ship at all 6 schools. We have good attendance. We have strong participation. Students are immensely compliant with the guidelines of masks and all the protocols. It's really impressive. I want to recognize that the summer planning is moving forward. The surveys are out. The numbers are coming in at the building level. Daniel's working with principals and the admin planning team and the teacher planning team to adjust as needed to invite more students to work on all the logistics. And I'll let him add to that. Anything additionally around summer planning? Do you want to add anything?
No, we're just,
Working
you know,
smoothly.
you have, surveys are out, we're doing registration. I will say, I mean, I guess, yes, I'm adding something. I will tell you that the interest level is extraordinarily low. Yes, the uptake by our parents thus far. Brian at the high school put out a request to the parents on Friday. He had 0 responses by Monday. That's highly unusual. And I know that we've invited, you know, a couple of hundred students at K6, and at grades 4, 5, and 6 combined, we have about 8 students that are participating, and at the lower K1, 2, 3, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of between 20 and 15 per grade level. So, I mean, there's still time, but I'm getting the sense that people are burnt out.
A question has come up about that program, whether there's an overlap between kids who are regularly in the extended year summer program versus the ones that are now being added, whether there's any piece that would be taken away from them or that will be added for them because there's this other program. And hearing that there's low enrollment, does that change the way that you organize the 2 separate programs? The one that's always been there versus the one that's being added?
It's really not practical from the vantage point of there's 5 weeks for the end of
One
year.
program and then 3 for the other.
Well, for the typical program that we run, and then there would be, we'd have to then tag on the other 2 weeks, like in basically mid to late August, so there was no overlap. And that's just not fair to the kids who are not receiving the 5-week program to bump them all the way out to the end of the summer. So, I mean, I understand. I think the argument goes that there are kids in the 5-week program that some of their parents would like to take advantage of the 3-week program that's there for the gen ed students. But I don't see a practical way to create that overlap.
I mean, I think pieces of that, again, I just want to reiterate my introduction, which is, I think all of this is incredibly complicated, time pressure planning, and we're moving as quickly as we can. And I will be the first to say that on any given decision, there's pieces we could or should have done differently or might vision differently, but we're working forward with our best efforts in place, and I think that when you're inventing a program, we're inventing programming at the end of the year, and we invented 3 weeks of additional programming for students who probably have fragmentation of learning progress or emotional needs. The important thing is we've never provided that programming before. We designed it to meet those students' needs, and we have a very low turnout of interest for those students. However, the question around could we have done it differently and integrated those programs, there's always ways to do things differently. And in this case, what we chose to design and what we found workable for the staff who wanted to teach and how we were moving forward was to design it how we did. I think we need to wait and see where our numbers are. The second part of your question is, would we overlap it or would we change what we're doing? I have no idea yet. Until we see what the numbers are, till we get confirmation on staffing. I think, again, it's building it while you're flying it, and I think we're all doing the best we can to kind of provide something vibrant and meaningful.
No, I just think there's a curiosity out there, and the intention obviously is really good. I mean, we talked about that last time. It's just the intention is the right place, which is how can we support our students? But as we said last time too, might students be burnt out? It's been a pretty intense year for most, everyone. So,
Yeah, and we'll see. I think certainly, given, as Daniel just reported, where we are with numbers and planning, I think the final decisions on how they all flow together, will be made in the next, I don't know, 2 weeks probably. Anything else you want to add on summer planning? This is why we do these updates. These are important conversations. I appreciate, this is the whole purpose of this, is to surface it and talk about it on record. I want to acknowledge as well that we're continuing to provide a strand of opportunities for our remote students to engage in returning and connecting, as well as faculty to have opportunities to be on school grounds and to find ways to connect and to participate, such that they start to bridge back to comfort about being in school. The district activities are moving forward, as we said, with everything needing to be modified to match to the safety requirements that are allowable. Every activity, our premise has been that every activity, closure, or celebration that we always do should be hopefully achieved with modifications if possible. And if not, there are things that we won't do this year, such as the 8th grade trip, which is a huge loss. But I acknowledge that most everything else, we're able to move forward with planning for transition and step-up events, graduation. Lisa, you did a beautiful highlight of things I had that I don't need to repeat. I think maintaining some of the celebratory stuff with the parades at Memory Lane, which are nice additions, they take a tremendous amount of work. Those aren't like small additions, just do that again. Like, I just have to give a shout out to the volunteers who pulled that off, which took a massive amount of time to be able to do thoughtfully. And it's very exciting to be able to provide those again for students. I would say that for graduation in our planning, I talked to Brian today, and he was indicating that we are going to extend our invitation for guests to 6 guests per graduate. That's well beyond what some of our neighbors are, feeling comfortable providing. They've stayed at 4. We feel strongly that expanding to 6 is worth the effort to make sure that we can host as typical a celebratory event as possible. And the other types of transitions, dance days, and all sorts of things are happening with good modification. I would note as well that tomorrow an announcement will be coming out from the junior class requiring junior night. When it will be, what it will be, it's celebratory, it will be held on campus, it will have a variety of food and entertainment and events. They will be doing that release tomorrow, so I feel like I need to let them release that. The students are prepping the flyer, and Brian working successfully with them to kind of urge them forward to release that by tomorrow, so that they're doing a save the date with some core information tomorrow. And again, the juniors that are working on that planning with the adults are experiencing what it's like to try to really recreate an event, and we're helping them to try to achieve their vision. So I anticipate that to come out tomorrow, and I think that's very exciting. I think families are urgent to kind of know the date in that experience. Fine arts concerts are up and running with modification. There have been some really enjoyable outdoor celebrations. Acapalooza was last night. There's actually a concert tonight. So lots of good news around those pieces. And we're just going to keep moving forward a day at a time. So I was able to see some seniors today who are counting down, and they're feeling celebratory. So that's typical as always. I think that's it for tonight for us, Daniel, in terms of key updates. Do you have questions around any other things you're hearing from people with regard to concerns or questions around the current status of kind of how things are going with regard to how school is running? Bus capacity continues to pick up. I know traffic is an issue because people are trying to adjust to it. Some of the traffic patterns are different because more people are dropping off this year still. So, those are all just pieces of implementation. All right, that's it for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to welcome up Roger Anderson, who's our Director of Wellness. He's here to share a presentation about plans for how a gift from the Turkey Trot fundraiser will be used in the district. And I'd also like to acknowledge some of our Turkey Trot representatives are also here in the audience as well. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Marina here.
So yeah, no, we're very excited to just be in a place of appreciation about a great gift from the Turkey Trot to give us the opportunity to impact a bunch of kids as well as people in the community. So I think we can jump ahead. I just thought that was a great little graphic there. So thank you. And so what we've been able to do as a result of the gift from the Turkey Trot people, we're going to be able to put in permanent low elements on site at Westborough High School. So if you come off of Ruggles toward the upper parking lot, there's a small field with a really nice white fence on an accessible pathway up to a really small field that's at the base of where the old ski tow was. Those of you who've been around for some time, that hasn't been here for a long time. There's a nice field there. We have our discus cage there for our track and field, but along the side of that closest to the road is about a 125-foot long stretch of grass, about 25 feet wide. And we're going to have a series of low elements, some permanently there, some that will move in and out as we go. But that's really a really nice place for it because adventure education reaches kids that typical team sports don't. And it allows kids to be successful in ways that they might not, and allows some kids to shine that might not otherwise shine. And it's really individual, it's challenge by choice, and there's a lot of team building and cooperative skills. So that's where that's going to be. I have a couple pictures of them coming up. I'll show you those in a little bit. We also will have some portable things that we can move around. So we can not just keep stuff at the high school. We have some equipment that we can move to other buildings, either do teacher trainings or impact the students at different levels. Included in what the gift allows us to do is a 2-day training with High Five Adventure out of Vermont. They're going to come down and train our staff and go through every piece of equipment, not just what the safety is, but how can it be applied to a large group of students, to a small group of students, to a group of faculty that comes in, or another community group that we invite in to do some training with. And so we're really excited about that, because it's not just going to be like, drop it off, here you go. Our whole staff's going to be invited to that, and we'll be able to do that. So if we can go to the next slide. And what it will allow us to do is just give some awesome experiences to kids. It's really exciting to see kids who don't necessarily shine in some of the other pieces really come out of their shell, have some great experiences. I have personal experience where some adventure course stuff, as a part of a lot of other things that went on in my life, really anchored my ability to grow and learn. So we hear constantly about those types of experiences for individual kids. And that's what this is going to allow us to do. It also takes us one step closer to the implementation of a larger adventure program, including a high adventure course. And that's really going to allow us to take the curriculum that we've written and have in place at the high school and move forward with. And that's part of the strategic plan over the next few years, is to be able to implement that. So we're super excited that we were able to get this gift and move forward with that. I'll show you a couple of the neat things. The one on the top right is called a Moby Deck. It's a really large sort of a balance plate. And you can imagine with a group of students the types of problems that they would have to solve to be able to make things balance. You can, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, it's a puzzle to solve, and, with various kids. On the left is a really neat one. We actually got 2 sets of Bangle boards, which allows us to create all sorts of different obstacle courses and balance courses and things where students have to, just figure out how to get one place to another, or work together to get everybody up balanced without, with all these constraints. So we're really excited about those opportunities. In addition, on the next slide, it shows some of the more portable pieces that we have. We got what's called a program bag, which has something like 1,000 different activities that we can run. And a lot of this is stuff that we sort of do already, but this formalized with the training is going to allow us to really go with it. And we did get 2 of these cubes. I don't know if any of you have ever done an activity called a spider web. Oftentimes that's a permanent structure where you try to feed people through, or they have to figure out how to do it. Well, this now takes that concept and makes it into a 3-dimensional problem. And simply getting it set up is part of the problem, and then you can have instructors hold it and rotate it while people move through, and Ian Doak from High Five was very excited about this as a product that they've just been having raving reviews from, so we were able to get that as well. And so that really is, kind of the key of what we have. We wanted to target our seniors this year. We haven't quite been able to get everything lined up by the time they go, but we are going to provide our seniors with a really neat opportunity on their last school day put on by the wellness department. And a lot of the ideas for what we're going to do sort of came out of this work. So that gift really made a big difference to us. One piece that's not on the slides, that's another piece of the Turkey Trot money that's going to benefit the wellness department is through some grant work, which they are supporting. We have rollerblades at the middle school, which is another sort of non-traditional activity. They have supported and filled what we applied for as a grant. And it's not just getting the kids together and rollerblading, but it's actually partnering with science teachers and looking at the physics of motion. And so it'll be really neat to have that collaboration go on. We originally started rollerblading a number of years ago with a grant. We've been piecemealing it along, and now we needed to take a big step and get back put together to have enough to meet the needs of all the kids. So I want to be thankful for that as well. So the people sitting behind me and sitting right over there are the ones that met with me, and really thankful to Sarah, Maureen, and Maura for meeting with me and believing in this project, and we can't wait to get it implemented and get people going with it.
Yeah, I know you guys want to make comments, and I'm sure you have questions. I want to highlight 2 additional things before you open it up, which is, I think it's just really amazing to look at the synergy of projects. And so I want to acknowledge that back at this same team were strong participants in the Ranger on Track fundraising. And when we look at the vision of equity and outdoor experiences, making sure that when we did the revision, we got the accessible roadway that is really spectacular, that gives us strong and appropriate equitable access to the start of what now anchors a redo of that outdoor educational area with the high ropes, with these low elements, again, accessible to all, working forward with that type of vision where the fundraising and the planning and then having a long-term vision starts to really give you traction to do big projects. You can't just suddenly decide to do a big project. You have to really wrap your head around it. And I feel like you're the kind of people that understand that. I feel like that this fundraising group and the vision around Rangers on Track and now this movement into both, finishing the softball fields, picking up this other area, just takes a lot of sustained visioning. So I want to thank this team for really, really incredible work, and for Roger's team for really making us a high-end wellness department on all sorts of levels. So anyway, I'd open it up to conversation.
Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
I had a question about that cube, the spiderweb thing. So is that one of the elements that you'll be able to take over to Gibbons or Mill Pond and do work there too?
Yep.
Okay.
We have to be a little careful that we don't let the cat out of the bag and show the younger kids everything that they're going to see as they come along. We actually have a curriculum map of adventure type activities, and it starts with cooperation in kindergarten and pre-K, and it's tied into some SEL skills along the way, but then it works its way all the way up to the pinnacle of some of those high elements that we talk about. And these are low elements, which is great, and it's the second to last step as we get to that. So yes, we can travel with that, and there are a variety of activities that we can do, so yes. Good question.
I just wanted to thank them and you. I feel like the long-term vision, as Amber just referred to, is just to really see where you want to get to and make sure you have the foundation put into place in order to get there is amazing. I think it's what makes our school system special, with people like you who have that vision and found the way to get, take it step by step, whether it's during the project prior to it. And then I feel sort of sad that I've never acknowledged Maureen Johnson, Mara Shunny, and Sarah DeLay when it comes to the Turkey Trot. You've worked on this for many years, in which I occupy the T-shirts from every single year. But when I look at it, I think the amount of work that the three of you have done for those fundraisers that have really given back to the Westborough Public Schools has been extraordinary. So thanks to the three of you for really doing so much work over the years. And it's great to see where, it comes to fruition and you see a project like this being able to move forward, and even to see it, that the fact that it's going to hit every single student, it's going to be that K through 12 and have a process that they'll pass through. So thank you to Roger and the three of you.
Thank you. I was going to
Really
use
great.
the word vision too, but now I won't even say the word. We had talked to Roger a while ago about, using some of the money for health and wellness. And so he had come to with a few different ideas, and we felt like this one really meant the mission of the Turkey Trot. And like you said, extending, to the whole community, because it really is a community event. That started 8 years ago, kind of Marianne O'Connor's vision to have a community-wide fundraising event. And we didn't know what we were doing, and now we kind of know what we're doing. But we went from 300 people to 1,000 people pretty quickly. So it was huge community response. So it's such a great that we can use the money for the whole community. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I think, did there used to be a high ropes course
Did have a
back
high
there?
ropes course that was built a long
yeah,
time ago.
Yeah.
And over time, it just became somewhat prohibitive to maintain it for what
Yeah.
it was being used for. So we've done some work, and we've already engaged in planning for what that next high ropes course is going to look like, and we're very, very excited about that possibility in the near future.
Yeah, so this becomes the new base starting place where there's activities on low level, and then you have that area much more accessible with the path, and then you'll see in the strategic plan a vision to redo the high ropes, with the hope of then working with like the police department and other community organizations to partner with Roger's team, who will be trained to be able to have people do community-based team building and other types of activities that, again, if it echoes this community vision, just like you see everyone accessing the high school on the weekends and the outdoor area, the whole Rangers on Track project was for the community as much as it was for the schools. And I think you see that same echoed theme around this, but then also around the Turkey Trot, which is a really vibrant Thanksgiving weekend activity for our whole community. And I think that's that enriching kind of, when you vision, that's exciting. So the redoing of the ropes course, I think we now have the team in place that understands the outdoor education component and the strengths of it. And that's exciting to start to place into our program.
I think our next school committee retreat, we should have a community building activity on the low ropes course.
I was just going to offer the same thing and remind you all that it is challenge by choice. So
Thank you.
whatever your abilities are, that's where we'll meet you.
Thank you. Well,
All right,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much for coming tonight. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. And thank
Maura,
you,
Maureen,
everyone.
thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Great. So next on our agenda is a world language update. So Daniel, I think you're gonna take point on that. Okay. Thanks.
We'll take point on it. So the context here is that we want to talk about, we're doing a slight reorg of how our world language department is structured, in part motivated by the fact that the state, for the first time in over 20 years, has updated their standards for world language. They just recently passed this document, the World Language Curriculum Framework document that's here. And while it's an exciting document, it's about time that the state sort of moved in this direction. It's a direction that we already had been moving toward. You may remember, I've talked to you about world language over the last couple of years. We did a program review, and it was fairly extensive, where we looked at how, despite the fact that the state hadn't changed their approach, that basically the National Organization for World Language Organization, ACTFL, I'm not going to get the initials right, but it's the American World Language Association for Educators, had said you should really be moving towards a more organic, performance-based approach to teaching languages rather than focusing on grammar and textbooks. And then, so a lot more authentic communication. After all, we're not raising the students to be reading and writing so much as communicating in the language. And that's how you're going to get them enthusiastic about it, is if they can actually utilize the language. And so that entailed getting rid of our textbooks and redoing our entire curriculum. And over the last few years, we've been moving in that direction. And this is further evidence that we were working on moving in the right direction. It's taken a tremendous amount of work, and our world language program, as you know, starts down in the middle school in grade 7. And the communication between the middle school and the high school in terms of the building blocks of what's going to happen in a 7th and 8th grade class leading up to, when you get to the high school. So, the Spanish 1, 2, and 3, and making sure it's tightly linked together. In some subjects like mathematics, it's very clear what you're covering in the different areas. The books are linked together in terms of the scope and sequence is clear, but it's much more organic and complex to do this kind of work. And so we had looked around at other similar school districts, the benchmark school districts, and how they structured their departments, and found that there was a number of districts, more than half, that are in our benchmark group, that have a coordinator who serves the role of bringing together the middle school and the high school and oversees the world language program. And so after some discussion last year, and then again getting into a more discussion this year on it, we've decided to add that position and take basically it's a teaching person who would be teaching part-time, but then also working in, we came up with a draft of a world language coordinator job description, and they would be teaching one section at the high school, one section at the middle school, so that they understand the culture and are part of the departments at both schools, but then would be freed up for the rest of their days to work as a support and work as being able to help with professional development. And a key role is when new staff come on board, they need to be caught up and mentored in a more intense way. And so, we feel very confident that this is a good move for the district. I don't want to make anyone nervous with this, but we do want to explore 6th grade as a foreign language target. A lot of schools, their middle schools start in grade 6. And so that would be something that the coordinator could help us explore. It obviously has scheduling implications and et cetera with Mill Pond, but in any case, we're excited by this. We're going to post the position and want to move in this way starting at the beginning of next year. So
It echoes a lot of, it's not a new position in the sense that FTE, it's more a lift leadership available position to layer on top of FTE. It does require that we're releasing them from a portion of additional teaching duty, but as we do with like department heads, curriculum coordinators, team leaders, these are layers of leadership positions that we make available across districts. So Daniel will, work with the principals to shepherd the project forward through the department and, have a recommendation for someone to kind of lead this work. So I think it's very exciting. It does move us. I think it's a good move now, given that with the standards coming out, a lot of districts are going to be scrambling to kind of think about framing coordinator positions to kind of assess how to move forward with the standards. I think we're poised then to be well on our way, as our proficiency work is already made good progress with the dynamic of our department, which 7 to 12 is really a good group. So, thanks.
So my question is there a budget impact? And if so, is it included in the monies that we're going to ask for this Saturday?
It's included in the funding. It will be covered by curriculum funds that already exist for supporting curriculum work. So Daniel will direct it in terms of that. In terms of finances, it's already included in our planning. And again, it's not adding FTE in the sense of, it will add some partial FTE, which he has some class coverage that can be managed, in department, but it's covered within budget funds that are existing for us with some of the curricular funding that Daniel already uses for the types of kind of review that are articulated here in the coordinator position.
Though I suspect if we brought it to 6th grade, we would be talking about budget funding. If we added
Yeah,
that.
that would be after, I think, again, that would be layered out in the strategic plan. And I think what you'll see is in the strategic plan, as Daniel said, an assessment of the new math standards under the leadership of this person working with the department with a set of tiered recommendations that would follow, that would, again, be spaced out over time. Were we to ever add language anywhere further down the continuum of our grades, yes, that would have financial impact we would have to plan for.
And then 3 years ago, during our retreat, we talked about an immersion program. Do you remember that, Steve? Talking about the potential for, and the only way we could probably ever do that is if we had a coordinator, to even contemplate it, and to understand budget implications, how that might work, how it might not work. Certainly there was interest at the time, and there certainly has been community interest about that has come about over the years. And it is obviously a budgetary implication, but it's nice, it would be great to have a world language coordinator who could explore that option and explore the option of 6th grade. So I think this is a plus for the school system. World language, the trajectory that it's been on in the last few years, it's really exciting. And for our kids to come out as biliterate students, with the biliteracy exam to show that they are bilingual, from moving through our school system, can only be improved by adding a grade or having this position. So thank you.
It's an ambitious department, and you want this to be an ambitious, forward-looking department. So I want to really acknowledge the department overall as very much, with the leadership of the department heads in place, create a sense of positive energy to world languages such that more and more students are seeking it out. So that's very exciting.
And I did notice that in this position, this person would also have some evaluation responsibilities shared with the principal. And I feel that that is really important because this person would know specifically the ins and outs of teaching world language versus a principal who knows, the teaching principles of running a classroom and things like that. But the actual language and teaching it and stuff, it's good to have both sets of eyes in terms of leadership on a position like that. So I think that that makes sense as well.
Agreed.
My question is, who is doing this work now?
Well, some of it's new work, and it will be work that we haven't been able to reach for, that we will be able to reach for. And currently, I would say it's covered by short-term kind of project-based groups that come together to do some of that planning, but it doesn't give us as much strategic
there's no
leverage.
interbuilding leadership. That's part of the issue. And so you have a department head in the middle school and a department head at the high school, and they work in like this, and do a good job within their realms, but it can't. And I think that's why other districts have put this position in, is just you need this tight coordination. So
Yeah, and I think
it's
the
filling a
proficient-
gap.
Yeah, definitely. So pieces will give us new opportunities. So when you add an opportunity, it should be new. So it gives us new opportunity to reach for stuff that we haven't had time to strategically plan for. But to Daniel's point, the proficiency model implementation requires that you're not moving students in their language development through a continuum where everybody moves like this, but at their language rate of speed. The differentiation and the type of authentic immersion where you're tracking individual standards requires a lot of coordination for how students roll through those proficiency levels. And I think that's why you see some districts having layered in a coordinator to help kind of do some of that assessment and coordination between the strands of language. So I think there's exciting things ahead with it, and, we'll be able to keep you updated as we unpack the standards, and it should be good work ahead. So just an update.
Yeah,
and
thank
we'll
you.
keep you, in the mix, Daniel, we'll keep you updated, which will be good.
Thank you. That's exciting. Next on our agenda is to review a draft of the dates for school committee meetings for the 2021-2022 school year. And tonight is just a first look at the draft of dates. We can modify them as needed, so it's just a draft. So look for blind spots where we maybe overlooked a holiday or another important conflict. And then at our next meeting, we will vote in these dates as our official school committee meeting dates. But when I glanced over them, I didn't, see any conflicts with holidays or, celebrations. One of the dates, I think, is maybe the second night of Rosh Hashanah. I'd have to go back and look, but it didn't seem like it would.
My sense is
Be
that
an
it's the
impact.
end of the holiday, and that night there's a meeting.
Okay.
Is that what you saw? Or I'll look at it again
We'll have to
also.
look. But I don't think that would impact our ability to have our school committee meeting.
The only other dates I always think of is I just looked it up too, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Conference, I think is back, seemingly, it's back live this year. It's November 3rd to November 6th. So Steve has traditionally been our delegate, but I know others have traveled there.
Yeah.
So it is the first night. I know Amber goes because it's the superintendent's also. So, but that's always a dicey week. I feel like if Good Scout comes back as well, it's usually that
Yeah.
week too.
So the Good Scout.
Oh, do you have that date?
I do have the date. Let me just do it here, hold on.
Those have been traditional conflicts that week.
Good find. Good find.
So the Good Scout in the upcoming school year will be November 10th,
Oh, it's probably that
2021.
weekend. Yeah.
So that is the scheduled date. Let me just double confirm. Because I know that the save the date is going to be going out on that. And let me just make a note here. This year, FYI, the honorees for the Good Scout will be Maureen and Ian Johnson. And so I think it's going to be quite a heavily attended event, and certainly one as colleagues in school and community service, you might well want to attend. So that will be the 10th. So that
okay.
would work. I mean, you could move, and I'll look at it and see. I mean, typically, I am going to be looking to plug back into events related to superintendency work, but I could go down, and come back up for our meeting. I did that one.
Yeah,
year.
it does actually say hybrid program, both online and in person. So we can kind of wait and see what that turns into for the 3rd.
Yeah, I think the only in-person time is on that Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I think it's a hybrid program where you're on Zoom or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's formalized yet, but that's what it appears to be now.
And I think the important part for Steve is to be a part of the annual meetings and things where they vote on the legislative issues and things like that. So, because you're a delegate, so that's an important, whatever day, sometimes that's not the first day of the conference either, so.
Yeah, it used to be Wednesdays. I don't, November 3rd, I don't know what day of the week.
Yeah, that's
That's
Wednesday.
the
Now it's Wednesday through Saturday, which typically it's over a weekend, right? It's usually
Yeah.
like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that, so.
So it might be Thursday if it's in person then.
Okay, all right. Anything else, any other dates that people noticed? We'll give you time to look at it over the next couple of weeks. Let me know if you come across anything, and I can coordinate with Amber and Andrea and figure out the dates there. And of course, the town meeting dates are to be determined, assuming we get back to our regularly scheduled March town meetings. We just have those dates held in there for our own meeting purposes as well.
Yeah.
And is this our new home?
This is our new home. This is our new home, and we understand that it's challenging for us as a committee to not have a screen in front of us, and so I think Amber is working on, we're going to have some screens, basically portable screens that can be set up on the sides of the room to help us, so that'll be a good addition in here. Yeah.
Beautiful, anyway.
Yeah. All right, so one of the
Can we
last...
play old movies at the same time?
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that John Green is working with Mark Stockman and the town on, and Westborough TV. It's important that they integrate for Westborough TV as well, so there's a discussion around it, but certainly we're interested in participating in purchasing viewable screens that could be placed, and those are workable enough that they can roll around during workshops and stuff, so it should provide.
Right. Okay, so let me know if you come up with any other conflicts for those dates. We'll move on to the discussion of the superintendent's review process. So the school committee conducts a review of Superintendent Bach each year. And we begin the annual review process tonight with a look at the documents we'll be using for evaluation, and I'll outline the steps involved and the timeline for the review. So the superintendent's review is based on the Massachusetts Model System for Educator Evaluation specific to the superintendent and the performance level and the model rubrics. And you had 2 documents in your packet, and those are what we'll use to guide our evaluation of our superintendent. The school committee will review Amber on her goals. So remember, she always shares with us goals at the beginning of the year. She sets personal goals. And they're aligned with the standards that are instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. So the rubric provides a guide with indicators and elements of each standard that can be followed to complete the review. And as I mentioned, Amber's goals are aligned. I think you started that last year, aligning your goals with the standards, and I think that's been really helpful and useful for us. So I just want to remind you of the steps in the review process. So tonight is step 1, just to introduce the process and remind you of the steps and review the documents. At our next meeting on May 26th, Amber will provide us a self-evaluation on her progress on the goals that she set for herself at the start of the school year. Amber will also be sending out a staff survey, so we'll have that data as well. And then once you all complete your individual evaluations, I will create an evaluation document for Amber that's all of our comments combined together into one evaluation. So I'll create an evaluation document and send it to each school committee member individually. And I just ask that it be completed by Monday, June 7th. So I'll get that ready. And then you can sit with that. We'll wait to hear Amber's, self-evaluation. We'll get some staff data. And then I'll compile all of your comments and evaluations, and then we'll complete the formal review at our very last meeting on June 9th. So that's where we'll, share the evaluation and during our public meeting. Hope this all sounds familiar to everyone since we've all gone through it before. Any questions or comments on the process?
Nope.
And you have a window of time there between, our meeting on the 26th where I can give you, you'll get the survey data and then my self-evaluation. You should have enough time if you have questions or you want more information on something or you want to sit down and talk through something with me, to email me or follow up or just give me a call and we can, certainly process something if you have questions that you feel like you want to understand better in order to do the review. So I make myself available to you as needed. So thank you for putting in time on that. I know at the end of the year it's incredibly busy. So thank you.
It's important work. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, anyone can reach out to me with questions. And like I said, I'll send you an email reminding you of all the dates and the process, and I'll have that evaluation form for you. So that takes us to the end of our agenda. We just have 2 more scheduled school committee meetings for the remainder of the school year. The next meeting of the school committee will be on Wednesday, May 26th at 6 p.m., and the last meeting of the school year will be on June 9th. We do have a need for an executive session. Is there someone who can make the formal motion?
I can have it.
You have it?
You're
Okay.
right on time. Should I wait like 30 seconds?
I know, I'm looking at it, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
If I do it right now, you're on time.
Thank you.
I vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, teacher contracts, and under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 22G2, Purpose 7, to review and approve executive session minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Good.
Julie, yes?
Edinburgh, yes?
Durant, yes.
And Vincent, yes, 5-0. So we are in executive session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.